So many of our favorites to watch. Oh look, now they're being bashed. I guess that's what we should expect on the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast. Welcome to the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast. For people who are looking for us, you can find us on any place where podcasts are found. If you want to give us some feedback or some input, you can find us on bulliedpod@gmail.com. Otherwise, we're just here to ruin my brother and my childhood. So let's jump into it. Joining me today is Kylan.
Hi.
Chance.
That's me.
John.
Hello.
And today we're joined by my friend Erik.
Hello.
Today's episode is on Double Dragon, the 1994 video game to movie adaptation. Erik and I did not talk about this beforehand, but that's why he's here. Erik and I called ourselves Double Dragon in high school. So this movie means a lot to our nostalgia. It's bad. We'll get
really
into
bad.
it.
What do you mean it's really bad?
Okay. For context, I was telling the boys I saw Erik on Thursday, and he walks up to me and he says, "Just so you know, I'm 15 minutes into Double Dragon. Not because I got busy, but because I had to turn it off. It's really bad."
Yeah, because I was not into drugs recreationally as a teenager, but I thought maybe I was, because I thought this was good, but I didn't remember doing the drugs. I thought maybe that's what had happened.
Let's catch everybody up to speed. Double Dragon is a movie based on a video game. Chance wants to tell us what happened in this movie.
So, a pair of brothers named Jimmy and Billy, led by their mentor Satiri, while they tag along with their friend Miriam as they try to get a pair of medallions called the Double Dragons, while a crew of villains named Abobo, Lash, and Shuko try to get the medallions first to take over new enemies. Yes. And that's pretty much the concept of the movie.
Okay, a little bit more context. The Double Dragons are two halves of an incredibly powerful amulet. Like, one half gives you power over soul, and the other half gives you power over body.
Soul meaning that you can turn into paper and shadows,
And then possess people.
strangle people.
Yeah.
There's one part where they turn on a fan to get rid of him when he's in shadow form.
I was assuming he was just possessing the air
And
or something.
Chance was like, "That's not how shadows work," and I was like, "But that is how souls work. Don't get too close to a fan."
I was going to say, like, how much experience do you guys have with the power over the soul? Because, I mean, you're very judgmental for never possessing one of these animals. I think you need to go a little easy on these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's funny because the soul amulet seems very powerful. The body amulet allows you to have anvils drop on your head and you walk away.
Or like old punching bags.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to concede that point. One is way more powerful than the other.
We never got to see Billy really cut loose with his, though.
No.
The
Like,
amulet of
I'm
body.
sure bathtubs could have landed on it.
Yes, so the body amulet, you're indestructible and strong. And the soul
You're
amulet.
invincible because nobody can touch you. You can possess people, and you're also a shadow.
Yeah.
Well, you're susceptible to fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, air current? That's a pretty big weakness.
And considering, like, one of the main plot points is that this universe just has fans everywhere, so
Yeah.
maybe it's not that good in all honesty.
True.
So I'm going to jump in. I don't feel like Chance's summary really walked us through what this movie is. Essentially, there's a bad guy named Shuko who wants these two amulets to be able to rule a city. But Billy and Jimmy are entrusted with these amulets to protect them, and they're just essentially irresponsible teenagers. It's like a Ninja Turtles type vibe to it.
There's a bit of that.
And it's post-apocalyptic after the Great Quake of 2000.
Yeah.
This movie takes place
Yeah,
in the
historically accurate
futuristic
is what I like.
Yeah.
2007. And after the Great Quake, gangs took over the city. And so they rule the city at night. And the police are allowed to do stuff during the day. Kind of like RoboCop or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a curfew and
And so it's the movie about Shuko coming after these two kids and them trying to stop him. It has a real 90s kids movie vibe. Like, this feels like everything else. This feels like Three Ninjas. This feels like...
Can you invite me back for that one?
We can do Three Ninjas.
Okay.
It even has some weird Home Alone vibes, right? Like,
Yes.
Scott Wolf, the guy who plays Billy, is clearly not a martial artist. He clearly cannot fight.
Agreed.
And so rather than trying to teach him or hire someone who can fight, he just beats everyone up with Home Alone antics, like gumball machines.
Yeah, I assumed your first punch at this movie was going to be him jumping on the opponent's back and slapping.
Yeah. That got him disqualified from the fight, too.
Yeah, it did.
It's a very strange way, because he's also the guy who gets the super strength amulet. So like, oh, they'll give the better martial artist the thing that helps you fight better. No.
Yeah,
Not
no.
really.
John said during the movie, he's like, I don't know why they give the amulet to Billy. I know why. That guy needed a serious handicap. He cannot fight at all.
Yeah.
He just gets punched around a whole bunch.
Tired for his face.
Yeah.
He was hired for his
He's a
face.
pretty boy.
I did feel like they had good charisma, though, the
Yeah.
brothers. I feel like
I mean,
they were
I
fun
didn't
to
understand
watch.
the
Ethnicity?
ethnicity difference
Yeah.
between the brothers.
Yeah.
Like, they could have at least said stepbrothers or, something, right?
Late in the movie, we find out that Shuko killed their dad. And Kai was like, wait, who was their mom? Like, just clearly two very different ethnic groups. But maybe adopted.
Maybe they had different moms. Was that ever mentioned?
They
It's
don't.
possible.
They don't go into it at all.
It doesn't really matter.
What do you guys think of a Bobo?
You mean the Jim Henson Muppet? Well,
What? That guy was so jacked.
Jacked up on plasticine.
I think
He had all the clay.
he was kind of the character that you'd forget about, and then they pan to a scene of him, and you're like, oh, he's still in this movie.
So, for context for people who haven't seen this movie, there's a villain early on named a Bobo who's a big guy. They say he can bench 800
800
pounds.
pounds, yeah.
And then Shuko levels him up and injects him with a bunch of super steroids. And so then he kind of looks like the guy who works for Jabba the Hutt, who has the long neck tentacles.
Yeah.
Only they're all inflated so thick that the guy can't move.
He's like a T-Rex.
Yeah, like, sure, that's good.
Exceedingly powerful, not mobile for the life of him.
He walks around like a big baby.
I'm pretty sure his biceps are so large he literally can't bend his arms.
Reminiscent of like a Power Rangers villain.
I felt really bad for him as a person because as
the
we were-
actor?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I looked him up and I thought,
He
'cause
looks
this guy
familiar.
has a soul. He's got a family. He had parents. Like, he's children and everything. But this movie is out there, just ripping down his character.
He's
Like,
forever a Bobo now.
well, yeah. But actually, do you know what his son's name is? Boo Boo. Legitimately, real life, his son's named Boo Boo, and he's in movies. I looked it up. He was also in Space Cowboys there, but he's a stunt coordinator. Interesting guy, and he's had a lot of movie credits for.
Yeah, I looked him up too. It's like 200 or something, but
For
it's
stunts.
mostly stunts.
Yeah, yeah.
Essentially, how this movie came to be is Double Dragon was the original brawler.
Beat him up.
Beat 'em up. Yeah,
You mean
exactly.
the arcade game?
Yeah, exactly.
okay,
The video games where you walk from left to right and you beat up all the enemies on the screen and,
And then
you
you
keep
can
moving.
keep walking.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it got so much positive feedback. Everyone was so into it that the company that owns it, they just wanted more money. So if anybody was like, hey, can I put a port on my computer or can I put a port on this console or whatever? They were like, sure, give me money, do it. So there was no quality control. And so what originally started as one of the best video games ever made quickly went into decline because there were several Double Dragon video games that weren't even possible to complete because the game designers put in such little effort. So Don Miller was the name of the guy who licensed this. He was looking to try and set up a movie studio, and he was in an arcade. He was playing Double Dragon 2. It was 1992. He's like, this would make an awesome movie. I don't know what about like walking down the street and beating people up like translates directly to deep lore and an exciting movie or whatever, but he was like, yes, this is gonna be it. What he didn't know was that was the end of the peak of fame of Double Dragon. So by the time this movie came out 2 years later, people didn't really care. He did say in an interview that this movie is a mix of Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and the Ninja Turtles.
No.
Maybe you don't see any Star Wars in this?
Is the Indiana Jones connection that there's a whip in the movie?
Just pick one random thing. South
You
America was
take
mentioned at one
thing
point.
from each movie and you're like, oh yeah, that's the same. We shot this movie on film, just like all those three.
Indiana Jones, we've got whips in it. Ninja Turtles, we've got ninja stuff. Star Wars, we have a horrible, deformed villain character.
He's Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, there you go. That's enough.
So the director was named John Yukich, and up to this point, he had only ever directed music videos.
Oh, really?
So when he saw the script for Double Dragon, which is just about fighting and beating people up, he reinterpreted it as a movie for kids. He was like, no, whatever you guys thought this movie was going to be, this is a PG movie. So he took the script and he gave it to a stand-up comedian and he had him rewrite it. When they went to put it out, it got slapped with a PG-13 label. So kids couldn't even go see this movie on their own. And it did very, 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 very badly at the box office. I mean, no one wanted to see Double Dragon anymore. It was over. This was a movie catered to kids, but kids couldn't go see it. The other video game movies that were coming out at this time were Mario Bros, Street Fighter. They all sucked.
Right.
So
What caused the PG-13 rating? Do you know that?
the director said, he's like, I wish that they would have just told us why it was PG-13, because they don't swear or anything.
Yeah, I know.
He said, whatever would have caused that PG-13, he's like, I would have been willing to change to get that PG rating, but I guess they never told him. It doesn't deserve a PG-13. There's nothing in this movie.
We did mention the
chaos.
slap fight part at one point.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone's got to have their failed moments, right?
Like a Bobo. That actor.
Like a boo-boo's dad.
Oh, yeah, here, I did look him up. Let's see, Boo Boo Stewart.
Boo Boo Stewart.
I know. We know this guy.
Bobo's
Oh my goodness.
son, Nils.
Oh your
Stewart.
goodness. Say it. Say
Hold
it.
on, Descendants?
Say it.
Disney Descendants, yeah.
Descendants.
No!
It's Descendants.
No!
It all comes full circle.
No!
Is he Jafar's son?
Yeah. I think
See
it's your
his
first
dad,
son.
Nils
Maybe.
Allen Stewart.
So,
There he is.
many years ago, my dad had the terrible idea to make us watch the entire Descendants trilogy because he thought it'd be hilarious. Unfortunately
And
for
it
us,
was.
this is a series that was successful with children, so they kept making more of them, so we had to continue watching them. It's not a fun
So
time.
for people who have not seen Descendants, that could be bullying our boys' nostalgia.
No,
But didn't you force them to watch
Yeah,
it?
I was
So
like
you forced them to watch it and then you
14.
make fun
It's
of them
just
on a podcast
bullying.
later? Oh, just bullying. Just parent
Bullied.
just bullying. Hey, remember
bully.
that one time? Yeah, it's gonna get worse.
So, for people who've never seen them, the Descendants movies are Disney movies that essentially say, what if the Disney villains all had kids?
And then those kids took acid and then breakdanced their problems away.
And Chance
You said it was
really,
not good?
No.
Chance
You'd be
really
surprised.
liked Hades' hair. Anyways, the kid of one of the characters in this movie is one of the main characters in those movies.
Oh, he's one of the main characters in it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Anyways,
So
the
he's-
connection here is a Bobo's child,
Boo Boo.
Boo Boo, is in the Descendants movies.
Yeah.
For those who got lost in the last 10 minutes of...
Yeah,
I was so
Recap.
excited I wasn't going to guide anybody. The training wheels were off. Committed. What do you guys think of Robert Patterson in this? He's Shuko, the bad guy. He had just come off of mega fame from doing Terminator 2.
This was after Terminator 2?
Yeah.
That went the wrong direction. Hey, poor guy.
Essentially, he was considered their, like, celebrity. The movie's not good. We're not pretending that it is. But I think he does a good job of chewing scenery. I think he's a good villain.
When a very white guy is like, now I'll use these Chinese artifacts in my very Japanese name to conquer America.
Right.
It's very strange.
So clearly the script was not written for a white guy to play the villain.
Mhm.
And so when they courted him to come in for the role, that's when they backpedaled. And so in the movie,
He changes his name and then he
This is
shortens
my
his
new
name.
name.
his name was like Geisman or something.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, nobody wants to party with Geisman. Like, it really does undercut how evil he is when he's just like, nobody wanted to be my friend, so I changed my name. Mark Dacascos plays Jimmy, though.
And that's mostly why we like the movie. You
Mark-
and I, as teenagers.
I assume this is the first Mark Dacascos movie we watched,
I think so.
but we later would watch a bunch of his stuff.
Yeah.
He's really good. In this, you get to see him do some kicks and some flips and stuff like that, but I remember there was a movie called Drive that we really liked where he essentially had something installed in him that pumped his adrenaline. So he was moving really fast and he like beat up like 30 guys in a room or whatever. It was essentially the holdover martial arts celebrity before we got things like Jet Li. He was almost a celebrity.
Yeah.
He did a handful of movies where he was a starring role. And he's still around. He was the main villain in John Wick 3.
Yeah, I remember I was blown away.
I like that he beat someone up by slapping a horse on the butt. That was...
Jimmy was, of course, the martial arts master. He was the badass of the two. But Billy was supposed to be the comic relief. But I found they were at their funniest when it was both of them. They did like 12 Home Alone screams together. Those are the ones.
I thought they were charming.
Yeah. The best scenes, in my opinion, are when they were totally in over their heads.
See, because I thought when a Bobo and spiky-haired guy beside him in the truck, where they just
Hawk, I
finished...
think was his name or something.
Oh, he had a name? That's when they were driving that remote-controlled truck, and then they got stuck in the alley, because I thought they panned back and forth between their mouths screaming like 8 or 10 times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was better than the Home Alone screen. Or like it was the best Home Alone screen of the movie, in my opinion.
I did like when Robert Patterson voiced over on Jimmy when Jimmy's possessed at the end.
I
Yeah,
thought
they
it
actually
fit.
do a very good job at that.
Like he comes across like really creepy and menacing when it's Mark Dacascos' body with
Yeah,
T-1000's voice.
I agree, yeah.
Actually,
Because Shuko, the bad guy, has the soul amulet and goes into Jimmy's body.
Possesses him.
Possesses him.
Okay, let's talk about that. This movie is based on a video game. The things that come from the video game. There's two brothers named Billy and Jimmy Lee, who are the main characters.
They wear blue and red.
They wear blue and red.
Yeah.
That is also correct.
Yeah.
There is a bad guy named a Bobo who's massive.
Oh, is there? Okay.
They do have a female friend named Miriam, and that's mostly it. There is one thing, though, and it's really cool. In Double Dragon 2, if you were playing 2 players and you got to the end, you could beat up the crime boss, but then one of the characters became the bad guy. Jimmy became the bad guy, and you had to fight each other to beat the game.
Oh.
So what started as like a brawler game culminated in a fighting game where the 2 players then had to fight each other and Jimmy became the bad guy. That obviously inspires that last scene where Jimmy is the bad guy because he's possessed by Shuko. But yes, very lightly based on the video game. All this post-apocalyptic stuff, all the Home Alone stuff. Even Shuko is made up for this. Oh, lashes from the games. That's one more thing.
Yeah, do you think they were just trying to create something? Because, I mean, most of the video game is them walking down the street fighting weird gang-looking characters. So they were just maybe spitballing of how we could create a world in which they would walk down the street and there would be people like this just trying to fight them all the time?
Yeah, in retrospect, I think it's as good of a through line as you're going to get. It reminds me of the Warriors movies.
Yeah.
Where every gang has a theme.
Yeah.
There's the clown gang, there was the postal workers.
I appreciated the commitment they had to building the world that they were in. Like these quick, brief scenes where people are having to breathe in oxygen, or the weather newscast in the rain.
Yeah. It was clearly all this John Yukich's vision for what the world was going to be, and he leaned into that really hard. It's not a good movie, but I can see where he tried. Guy, you talk for a bit, I
This
guess.
movie feels a lot like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the first one, in that they tried everything and they tried to make it as far from the game as possible.
You had said a couple of times that you felt like it was someone's...
This guy had to have been thinking of this movie for years. I don't know how else he would just come up with this.
Really? Okay.
Drugs.
No, please keep. No, I'll save my comments for the end. For me, it seems like very ad hoc, the whole thing.
The director went to see the Mario Bros. Movie when it was in theaters. They're halfway done Double Dragon, and he said in a quote, "I went to see Mario Bros. And I thought to myself, we could definitely do better than this."
Low bar.
In retrospect, I'm not sure that we did.
Wow.
High praise for your own movie.
Too bad he didn't go to Forrest Gump or something like that.
Yeah, we should do better than this. John, you want to talk about the last scene of the movie, I feel.
So at the very end of the movie, the bad guy is defeated and the good guys get to talk after the final fight. And Jimmy and Miriam are talking by the car, and Abobo, the big steroid bad guy who's now turned good, is like, "Oh, can I drive your guys' car?" So they're like, "Sure, Abobo, you can drive the car and we'll go in the back seat." But they played it off as they thought Billy must have embodied Abobo and used his soul powers to possess him. And it turns out that Abobo isn't possessed by Billy, and he's going to drive the car real wildly because Billy ends up being in the back seat. The weird part is that Billy never had the ability to possess souls in this movie.
Yeah, it's
That's Jimmy's power. It's almost like they forgot which brother had which powers at the end of the movie.
Confusing. I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't get it.
Are there any other scenes that people want to talk about?
Yeah, okay. So,
Kylan wants to talk about the
no.
spinach? Asparagus?
No.
Oh, yeah!
No, I do not want to talk about that.
Okay,
no,
so we'll talk about
no.
this.
We do need to touch on it for a quick second because
No.
I have a very strong stance about
Fart jokes.
in movies. I hate them with a passion.
Oh.
And so there was a
I
fart
didn't-
joke
I didn't know
attached to that.
Yeah.
So I guess this movie lost a star. It was going to have a prestigious 5-star score without it.
I was like, oh yeah, that's when it started losing points with you?
To get information out of Abobo, Miriam force feeds him spinach. And so he gets really bloated, even though he's already very bloated, and starts farting. So
Okay, back to the scene you wanted to talk
Okay,
about.
yeah.
Kai.
So, the entire movie, Billy has the body half of the amulet.
Yep.
And he cannot get it to work. As soon as Shuko gets his half of the amulet, it just works.
Yeah, okay.
And then Billy has his for the entire movie, and it doesn't work.
But then...
And then he's like, okay, it's not gonna work. I'm gonna throw it away. And then it works as it's thrown away. What a terrible amulet if it only works when you don't want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The soul portion of it, Shuko rubs like a lamp. And I wasn't sure if that was just like a nervous twitch or
Yeah,
like
because he cracks
habit.
his knuckle a lot.
Yeah. Oh,
just
he
cracks
cracks
his
his knuckles the amount Chance does.
No more.
Which seems impossible.
But then when Jimmy gets it and he goes into Shuko's body, you can see him rub it like a lamp. And so then I'm like, okay, I guess that's how it's activated. Whereas I guess Billy's is more like a Wiimote. It's got like a...
Yeah, accelerometer.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. When it gets going fast enough.
So that would work though if you were in a
this-
car and you were going to live through like a car crash.
Sure.
The medallion would get going so fast it'd be like fall off of a building. Oh, I know to turn on now.
Right, that's why they survived the speedboat crash and the explosion. Because
That's why he survives having a sandbag drop on his head.
Because it was attached to the sandbag.
Yeah, he threw it in the air, hooks on the sandbag, and then it hits him. Genius, really.
Yeah. Oh, so
Yeah, shut up, you guys.
No, don't shut up. But in your conversations, it sparked a memory of mine that I want to speak about a scene in the speedboats. It seemed to me that at some point somebody said, "Listen, I've got a bunch of explosives. How should we do this?" And somebody's like, "I don't know, just put them all across the river and we'll make them all blow up."
That's such a big explosion. Where did this movie film? I think it was like Cincinnati or something. They got the permits to set off the explosions, but they didn't get the word out, I guess. And so 911 was like bogged down with hundreds of calls.
That's awesome.
When the river exploded. Because no one knew that it's a big explosion.
Oh, it's a terrorist
massive.
attack.
Yeah.
They're trapped in this room, and the only way out is through the river. And they're like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, we should swim. And then Jimmy's like, no, if you do that, you'll be disintegrated.
You'll melt.
And then they're like,
find
oh, okay. And so then they get in a boat and they drive away. And then they fall in the river.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't drink it. You'll have diarrhea and your hair will fall out. It's like, this is a much less difficult
Did you
punishment.
see their hair, though? That's a fate worse than death.
Yeah, Jimmy's hair is too perfect to fall out.
Yeah, it was perfect.
There was one scene we were watching where Jimmy, Billy, and Marion are in this lair with these horrible body dysmorphia monsters that Shuko's created or whatever. That the concept is that he would possess them when he needed to. If he needed a big strong guy, he would possess a big strong corpse or whatever. And we were watching the scene, and John goes, "This next part was really hard for me to watch as a kid." And I'm thinking to myself, oh, is there going to be like some horrifying monster that appears or something that Shuko Frankenstein together? What happens is Billy and Marion escape, but Jimmy gets left behind, and so Shuko picks him up, and he hugs him, and Jimmy in the most daintily way goes, and passes out, and John goes, that was it. That was the thing that terrified me as a child.
So keep in mind, when this movie came out,
We didn't watch this when this movie came
No.
out. If Eric and I were into it in high school, that would put you at 10 years old.
I think I was younger than 10 years old. Anyways, it was scary and very sad for me when the brothers were separated and
Jimmy got hugged.
Jimmy got hugged really hard.
But, I mean, in your defense, so as a kid,
Yeah.
you're not really familiar with being shot by bullets or being decapitated with a sword.
Right.
But wrestling with your dad and him hugging you too hard where you can't breathe, that's a pretty common thing.
That's
So
real.
I feel like
Very
you
real.
could kind of connect.
Relate.
Did this movie cause you to hug anybody too hard on the playground?
Yeah.
Yeah. We joke because in Superman 4, which I would have watched before I got an in-school suspension, the bad guy scratches Superman's neck and Superman bleeds. And so I would later on get an in-school suspension for scratching someone's neck and they bled.
I did not know that. And you were reenacting Superman?
Well, no, I don't. We joke that maybe that was the connection.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah.
So for this one, John...
I do like a good hug.
Who doesn't?
You like a good
Stay back
murder
now.
hug.
John, stay back! John. The last 30 years have been just like repressed memories of Jimmy getting hugged too hard, and you're like,
Every time John goes to hug a family member,
Yeah.
I won't do it again. I won't.
Just gentle, just gentle.
Don't want to split up the brothers.
I want to say another very positive thing about the movie.
Positive.
Yeah.
You have one of those?
I have a few of them. I've mentioned some
Whoa.
already. I feel like you weren't paying attention.
No, I wasn't.
Historical accuracy was one of them. When people are possessed by Shuko, their mouth movement is not bad.
No, it
There
didn't
was a
look
few times where they were moving their mouths, and I'm like, I know that's not their voice, but they did a pretty good job acting that. That'd
Yeah.
be tough.
Like I said earlier, the Jimmy part was especially, if you didn't know,
Yeah, not
that
just
was a
Jimmy,
Mark-
but even the other, like you mentioned in
Satori, yeah.
yeah.
If you didn't know that was in Mark Dacascos' voice,
Right.
though,
Yeah, it did a good job.
you'd be like, oh wow, like this is a creepy dude.
The one thing I found funny though is it seems that at all times Shuko possesses somebody, it's his voice. But
Yeah.
there's a part where Satori's talking to Jimmy and Billy, and it's her voice. So I was like, does he just do like really good impressions of small Asian women? Is that the idea?
Yeah, when Jimmy possesses Shuko, and he is talking to people as Shuko,
He's talking
using his
in
own
Jimmy's voice, but he's
There's-
trying to sound like Shuko.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear you.
So he must have a really good Satori impression.
He must.
He knew her for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. They did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Old drinking buddies doing impressions of each other's voices.
Old excavation buddies.
Let's hop over to closing. Chance, give us rating on 1 to 312.
So we've joked about my scale being really weird, so I kind of have to clarify it. My scale goes -5 to +5. Anything in the positives are movies that you should watch for genuine enjoyment, and anything in the negatives are things you should watch because they're funny to make fun of.
Oh.
The
Like,
closer you are to 0, the less you should watch a movie.
yeah, I like to call it...
Oh, I like that scale.
Yeah, it's what I like to call the mediocre valley. A movie that is a 0 isn't anything, you don't want to watch it, but a -5 would be The Room, which is a movie that is hilarious to watch.
It is.
I'm going to say this isn't a movie you should watch because it's good, but it is a lot of fun to riff on, so I'm probably going to give it a -4.
Nice.
Wow, -4.
John, how likely are you to rewatch this movie?
I distinctly remember my mom giving us a
Hug.
And then it all went black.
I'm just kidding.
she gave me a journal with puppies on it, and I was able to journal things in this. And I remember
I almost hugged someone today.
specifically having a page where I wrote down all my favorite movies.
Oh.
And I think at the time when I wrote that list, I remember Double Dragon being in the top 5.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So this movie meant something to me. When it's my birthday, my brother graciously allows me to pick what we do. And so I did make him watch this movie maybe 6 years ago or something like that. So it hadn't been too long since I had seen it last. But yeah, this movie's great. It's a lot of fun. I love the world that's created and all the colorful underground dystopian people. So I would probably will rewatch this movie.
So nostalgia not bullied.
Well, I mean,
Just starts crying.
Let the listener note he put his forefinger and thumb on his temple.
There's a lot of pain in those eyes at this moment.
There's a lot of concentration.
Keep it together, John. Keep it together.
He's trying to be political with the answer.
Oh, for context, if you're listening to this podcast, you can watch this movie whenever you want. It's free on YouTube. Nobody cares about copyright.
Should say something. There's nobody that you're going to be infringing on. You just watch this for free.
I think I knew that it was cheesy, so Highland's words can't hurt me.
What do you want to talk about this one, Eric?
I don't have a cool scale. Like, I really like Chance's scale. And
Oh,
stuff.
we didn't have these cool scales to start with.
It
Oh,
took
makes
a
sense.
lot
It's been
of...
developed over
It
time.
kind of compares every movie to a cookie now. We
Oh.
weren't there before.
Yeah.
I want to
It's
hear
gotten
this.
worse. It's gotten worse.
Okay, I do want to
Don't
hear it
even
because
look
I'm
into
interested
it.
in this.
Last one
Don't
I did
even
was,
look into it.
what
Don't look
was the
into
last one I did? Spice Rack? Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll say this, and kind of going back to what Chance was saying earlier with his scale, was that I started watching this as a chore because my friend told me to because I'm going to be on a podcast. And I had a hard time with it, but when I got my mother-in-law to sit beside me, no, seriously, Granda sat beside me, and she loves that genre of movie. So She was enjoying it, laughing her head off, and then my boys started by standing near us while we were watching, and then they were sitting down on the couch, and we all got that it was ridiculous and corny, but it was entertaining. I'm not going to go -4 on this, but I'd say -2.5, something like that, if I was to use your scale. Yeah. Do I recommend people watch it? No, but it's something that was fun to watch as a group.
Yeah, and that's what I would say about this movie too. I think it's fun. It's not good. It's really easy to make fun of it. It's almost like they're in on the joke. Half of the stuff that they're doing is so ridiculous that they know that it's dumb.
Yeah.
My rating is normally, when would I watch this again? And
The answer is never.
and barring a concussion where I don't remember my past life and someone's trying to like spark
This is
memories.
who you are.
This is who you are. You are Billy.
Post-concussed Tim weeps for his life.
I will. But
What was wrong with me?
Why did I do that?
in my future life, I'm gonna become like a washout martial artist who can't.
Oh, that makes a good Netflix series.
Netflix, you hear that? Too bad you can't have it.
They'd cancel it after a season anyways.
I don't think I will ever watch this movie again, but honestly, like John said, we watched it in the last decade. I'm watching it again. I have no resentment towards the movie at all. It's bad, but it's also fun, and I never walk away from it being like, oh, that was Beethoven last week, right? Where I was like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I watching these movies? So, yeah, it was fun, and if someone is out there looking for a dumb time...
And it's free.
And you have
It's
90s
true.
nostalgia... There's literally not a reason why this isn't a good option to just waste some time with.
That being said, I would 100% recommend this movie if you're in a group of people who are willing to make fun of it.
Sure.
By
Yeah,
yourself, I doubt this movie would be
Oh.
any fun.
No,
I
and
agree.
if somebody like came in while you're watching it by
It'd
yourself,
be embarrassing.
it's very yeah. But if there's people there before you start, it's okay.
Yeah.
Alright, Kai. Did you have... are
Cookie
we-
split in half, made into a necklace.
That's what I was
say
thinking.
that.
I was going to say,
Oh,
like, you could
no.
share
Clever.
the cookie with someone else.
Oh, yeah! I was just thinking like LSD cookie.
Is this a cookie best shared with
Don't do
others?
this.
It's a possession cookie.
Don't do this. You remember what
Soul
happened last
cookie?
time. Stop it. Stop it.
Is this a
What are we-
soul cookie?
What are we stopping?
So
soul
in the
food.
Spaceballs episode, I told him what kind of cookie it was.
Oh.
It was an underbaked bowl of cookie dough.
Yeah.
And so he wants to come up with his own answers. So do it already.
This cookie is an experience, okay? This is like a cookie that you make, but not a cookie that you eat. Okay? You get the fun of making the cookie with friends, but then you don't want to eat it. That's my answer.
So you've said many times in the last 24 hours
That this movie is bad?
this
Yes.
movie is bad.
It's so bad.
Literally, we'll be talking about something else. Kai will be like, hey, Double Dragon's really bad.
It's so bad.
Do you have anything else to say about it before we close? Did you have fun?
I think past the first 15 minutes.
Because it's like, oh, it's this Chinese village. I wonder if it's going to be an old martial arts movie. Nope. America in the 2000 world is destroyed. People are robots. There's a Muppet. Those first 15 minutes are really not telling at all of what's going to happen.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Is the appeal of this movie is that it's completely bonkers.
Yeah.
And in the first 15 minutes, you can't quite tell that.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see.
The clown fingers. I just want to mention them.
Oh
The clown
yeah,
fingers.
why?
I am
But
really
real clowns
impressed with
aren't like
those
that.
clown figures. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, most of them don't have quality clown gloves like that.
Oh.
Oh.
This is
Well,
clowns in their
I'm
prime when they
speechless.
can all afford the clown gloves,
I
really?
guess I'm just not that versed on the clown.
Who would have guessed that all clowns were secretly violent gangs, just waiting for the moment to rise up?
I think that would be a lot of people's first guess. Okay, does anybody have anything they want to talk about before we zip it up?
I know John will hate it, but I feel like somebody has to at some point sneak in the words
Praise
Beethoven.
Beethoven.
No.
Yeah, look out for weirdos. This
Praise Beethoven.
movie is chocked full of
It's all weirdos. Not a single person is normal, I don't think.
Here, let's think. No.
Weird.
Okay, look out for weirdos. Catch you guys later.